If you're wondering if the women gender is truly represented in Nigeria at the National Assembly, then I would say let's look at this. During the Ninth Assembly, we had 7 female senators, and during the 10th Assembly, we had 3 females. Does that answer a big question? Well, we'll be discussing that right here on the Patriot podcast. You're welcome, and my name is Dale. Today on the program, we have representing the women, if you ask me, is distinguished senator that would have made a change. My opinion. Adedayo Benjamins-Laniyi, she's the EMD of Doxa Digital Nigeria. She's also a pastor, and she is someone who carries a whole lot of young people along, and she'll give us all the details when she gets to speak. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you. And we also have our in-house analyst, Uchenna Simon, who we also call Prince UC Ingawa. Glad to have you.
My pleasure.
All right, so I just made a little presentation right there. In the Ninth Assembly, we had 7 females. Looks like there's a decline in the women representation at the National Assembly.
Well, Del, what I'd like to say is what we have are 2 distinct, separate profiles of a constituent assembly. Even with the Ninth Assembly, it was a dismal number. So if you're talking about numbers, then of course, comparatively or by any referenced measure, comparatively with Africa, West Africa, global representation of the woman in the political space, particularly in the constitutional assemblies, no, there's nothing to literally write home about. But the truth is this: what we have is a true representation of a startup point for a very significant movement and remobilization of the affirmative, not just action, but performance within an active space when it comes to women in the political advocacy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So yes, we have 3. And I'd like to use the opportunity to celebrate those 3. The distinguished Idiat Adebule, distinguished Ireti Kingibe, distinguished Dr. Banigo. Each one of these 3 women represent what is beyond a partisan representation to a collective heartbeat for every woman. Now, for the first time, whether you're 7, 3, or 21 numbered in the Senate or in the House of Representatives, we have a 3-time parliamentarian First Lady, Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, that is an affirmative representation that gives these 3 everything they need to reset for every other woman that will be coming in by the 11th National Assembly. And what I'm saying is simply this: they are pivotal. And they teach us, first and foremost, that we're going to have to work together and not apart. Also, we're going to focus on the fact that we have them at all, because very easily it could have been a different story.
But why do we
not.
Why do we have a decline, Prince? Why do you think we have a decline? In the past years, the 8th and the 9th Assembly, we had more women.
Yeah, well, I think why the decline was there was because some of the women in the Ninth Assembly, vied for a bigger position, which is allowed, and which, will I say, we could have had a woman governor in Adamawa State. But as God may have it, it went the way it did, And secondly, I start to wonder why you have water and you're begging for water. In Nigeria, let me put it this way: 60 to 70% of eligible voters are women.
Women. That's right.
The day women will revoke, there will be a problem.
That's right.
Do you understand? So it's left for them. Though the issue is that even I have seen so many cases that despite how much they push, they still put them, or will I say push them down. But there are other ways to actually penetrate these offices, which I know the women knows better. So I think just like Her Excellency said, 11th Assembly will actually give more opportunity for more women. And looking at the present administration that have emphasized more on women, the president has said it not once, not twice about women. So I think the 11th Assembly, not even 11, but 2027 election, will have so much of women representing their various constituencies and
Okay.
senatorial districts.
Now I'm looking at the bill that was sponsored for the female legislators. That's in 2016, 16, where the issue of gender and equality opportunity bill was brought, and it wasn't agreed upon, partly because of the number of females in the house. With that kind of response to a bill like that, do you think there's truly a hope looking forward to 20,
There
the
is. The
11th?
reason I'm
11th?
seated in this
Yeah.
studio at all, having this conversation with you, is because I ran for Senate in the FCT, and that was considered an almost ridiculous, audacious representation.
What
Yes, in
was the
terms of going
reaction
for
you
it.
got?
The reaction was one of, "Oh, she's got to be kidding," and then of course it was like, like as a disruption. But you know the power of being driven by a real sense of delivering a mandate will redefine and reset dynamics for you, which is what happened with me. Initially, it was like a joke. Eventually, when it came to D-Day and they realized this was serious, then the men got really serious. And they made sure they came together. I mean, I was one woman and I had three men.
Yeah.
And
That's in
I
your political
completely
party?
polarized. I had beaten all three.
In your political party, that is?
Yes, well,
Yeah.
my political, no, that's for the primaries.
Yes,
I had
yes.
beaten all three. They were hands down. There was no question about it. But things happen in politics. You see, you can have what you call political math. Then you have political magic. It depends on which way you choose to tap it. But coming into the swim, one thing I came to realize is that once you're a powerful swimmer, keep swimming. And that is simply what I've learned to do. I learned to do, and I did. And I just took a deeper dive than coming in for it just being about winning an election. And that's why I say it's one thing, you can lose a primary election, but never lose your primary direction. When it comes to politics, you stay with it. Even if you don't win it, to finish it. What are you finishing? You see, the real decimal in politics is not about you as a person. It's about the people you as a person say you want to represent. If truly it is for the people, then stay in it for the people. You keep emphasizing the numbers. The numbers are never going to be impressive to look at. So look at what the people, the personalities are doing in the mix. What did Adedayo do that redefined FCT politics so that today I was able to recatalyze the environment and bring, I was one of the dynamics that brought the distinguished Senator Ireti Kingibe into the political space where she took the Labour Party ticket. She left the APC, went into Labour Party, and not because, quote unquote, the people went out to vote for her, but because there was a turning of the tide in the political representation, partisan-wise, across the country, and particularly implicated here in the FCT with the indigenous and versus non-indigenous vote. We ended up with everyone voting for anyone who had a particular party that they were representing when it came to the party that got the distinguished senator her position, her seat. But for me, it was still a celebration and a commemoration for the effort of women and the struggle of women in the political space, because the distinguished Ireti Kingibe has been in this push for 20 years. She's been mocked, ridiculed, disregarded, you name it. But here at a point when she has said, I'm no longer with it. It was her time, and it was her turn.
Now, you mentioned something which is the effort of women, and when you spoke about if women decide today not to come out to vote, we have a whole lot. It is not possible to go for campaigning without a huge number of women. But then when it comes to them taking a position, it's like it's two different things. So they're playing the role in politics, but it seems to be some other roles apart from, having the posters out there. Why do you think we have that?
Yeah, just like she said, I think the focus should be on what will you do for the people. It's not actually all about winning an election. Late Mama Taraba people loved her not because she want to win elections. She has, put down impacts that made people love her, make people, come out that they want her. Even men were, even though technically part of Taraba are Muslims, but the Muslim men doesn't care because they know this is a leader. She's there for her people. She's always trying to sacrifice all she can. So it is for women. My advice for them should be that it shouldn't be about the winning. They should always focus on what impact are they creating. Just put down all the legacies. Let people talk about it. That's what I think. That is the only way women can keep penetrating in political arena and get to the top.
But is there anything that Nigeria stands to lose if we have less and less women?
No, without any question, Del, there's somewhere you're pushing to, and
Yeah.
there's no question. When you have half of a demographic removed from the decisions,
Because they need to make a good number to
representations, the
represent well.
policy,
Yes.
the bills, and all of those, then
Yes.
yes, who speaks for the women? How do we get not just our voices heard, but how do we get our critical demands identified, recognized, presented as bills, passed, and then, put into the larger polity? How does all this happen when we don't have women in position or women positioned to facilitate that through their constitutionally elected roles? Because if they're not there, they're not there. How many women are going to sit on how many of those commission statements as they're passing bills? What different representations in the National Assembly, whether it's on oil and gas, environment, whether it's on women issues, whether it's water, everything has an implication when it comes to the girl child, to women, to managing creating economy for vulnerable households that have, of course, again at the center, widows, violated women of different reference, it could be VBF, it could be, there are all kinds of different challenges. So yes, there is by implication that that very significant challenge when it comes to the representation and the outcomes of more profitable, more sensitively designed and defined policies that will give women space, voice, position, that empathy, not just about, we're not looking for pity.
Exactly.
But what we are looking for, and I don't want to come with an entitlement projection or argument, but then again, some people argue, why not? If you've been denied so much, you better get entitlement. Let it be an attitude of entitlement that we want this because we've been denied this. We are owed this. But the fact of the matter is, in a patriarchal society, how far are you going to go with that? You're just going to create a situation and a scenario where you end up being 90% voted out, and then they shut the gate on you and say, when you finish shouting at that gate, we'll go through another gate. When they finish, they will leave. And that's just what happened.
So
we don't want to be patronized.
Yeah.
We want to engage. So this is what I say. The women, we need to build ourselves into conversations, into rooms. We need to become more articulate as lobbyists, not as antagonizing what is there and being seen as quote unquote angry women shouting at the gate. Because the minute you have that in a patriarchal society, honestly, they'll let you into the room once, they won't let you in again. And the reality is, we are women. there was a way in which our in-house analyst said it. Coded, what he said was that what is it? The women know what to do. We're not talking about seducing or manipulating through a contrary means or device what an outcome can be when it has a male-dominated decision base. But what we can do as women is what we can become more subtle, more genteel. The decorum in which we choose to engage and bring the conversations to a place of agreement, we can turn it around. We can do this. Every man in the National Assembly is someone's dad, someone's brother, someone's husband, someone's even somebody's fly by
Grandfather.
night, grandfather. I mean, the guys move around, and they're moving around with our girls.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So the truth of the matter is this: I'm not subscribing to anything that is out of order, but the reality of the day is that every man in that room has a woman that has an influence around him, and we all have to become a whole lot more sensitized about just what our conversation needs to be. And that conversation, the more we're able to aggregate it as we go on. Like I said, now the three in the House and the Senate have a First Lady who's been a three-time parliamentarian, who clearly, with her husband in situ, is directing the course of affirmative validation, as not just as appointments or as it's time for the woman liberation movement. No, 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 no. She's a mentor. She's a teacher. She's very, very thorough about working what the protocols of presentation and opportunity need to be, even if you're a woman. But she wants to make sure that you actually qualify to be in that space. And if you're not yet qualified, she's also committed to training you into being qualified.
I'm glad when you mentioned the issue of training. So
Yes.
when we talk about the men, we have things like the godfathers and the mentors. Do we have that with your experience in politics? Do we have women who prepare other women for positions as such?
Well, probably I haven't found it so per se, but I have found some critical personalities that have taken their time to speak to me, and they're not long talk, but just one or two things. Yes, I mean, because I came as a disruption, I challenged even a lot of the people who are familiar with me, to the point of maybe even offending them because I didn't follow the protocols. There are protocols in politics, so I can even understand they're being somewhat challenged by that. And what I will say is, don't take offense with people who seem to be offended with you, who even are offended with you. That's where I got my second most famous statement. No, my most famous statement is the fact that it's not personal, it's political. When you understand, yes, and I got it because of an attitude from some women who I thought were there to encourage me. And when I didn't understand that, I was kind of challenged about it. I was sitting with my husband talking, and then you know what? We both ended up laughing and saying, he said, it's not personal, it's political. You understand? It's like you come into that space from quote unquote nowhere.
Yeah.
And then what you're doing is you're challenging their opportunities. You've just made it smaller. You just made the room tighter. And you don't seem to have come up the ranks or the file the way they come through the ranks and the file.
Yeah.
And what nobody sees or understands, however, is that people like me don't come from nowhere. We've been building, our collateral has been building over time, but in a different context. I'm not just a politician. I have come through different exposure, and with the exposure, it's given me that lateral and horizontal immersion.
So coming from a man's perspective, I'm not sure that you will get to a point where if men will wake up and see all men in the house, they'll be glad to see that. What do you think as women we need to do to be able to step up? She mentioned the issue of...
They won't mind. Of course they won't mind.
Well, it gets to a point...
Some men will be very happy. They'll say,
Because
it's high
the point
time
is-
these women understand where they need to be. Enough of this nonsense.
Because there are things that need to be done with the presence of a woman, right?
Yeah,
Even be
just
careful
like
with
you
that.
said, if we have women that are mentors for other women, then I will tell you that most of our politicians, the men, most of their decision making are from their women.
Okay.
If you want to lobby something, you want to get something from a politician, you go through his wife. So at the end, you will see that the only thing he does is to answer the name. But we have a governor in this country that his wife makes all the decisions. We know it.
Wow.
Do you understand? We have it.
But it's not in the open for us to see.
It won't be in the open, of course, definitely, because she's not the one that was sworn in. But whenever you need anything, you go to him, you will not get it. But when you talk to her, definitely you will get it.
Should women focus on being kingmakers instead of playing the roles?
I wouldn't.
I want to hear from you too, but let me start. Let me start with me.
I wouldn't say. Anyway, we have women that are kingmakers as well. I know women that have installed senators. I know women that have installed the House of Reps. In fact, I know a woman that have installed a governor in this country. It happened single-handedly. I don't want it's in the South. She did it. And there is one she said, "You're not going to go back," and he did not go back.
That's how powerful she is.
No, I'm just telling you. So whenever they want to exercise that power, they can. If they want to, I just said it.
You know, what I was tell you is that same woman of whom you speak,
Yes.
she doesn't just install, she mentors. If she's one person who mentors me. And she has not made one mistake in giving me counsel. There are not many. And what I've also learned, therefore, is that it is my place to mentor others. And that's what I'm committed to. That's what I do. So, yeah, I would say women don't need to focus on being kingmakers or, or this. What I was thinking, let me put it this way, right? Be a kingmaker. Stop trying to be a king. You're born a queen. And all a woman needs to be is a queen. You see, the most powerful, what they call it on the game of chess, the most powerful piece on the game is not the king. It's not the queen.
It's the queen. Yeah.
What I say is this. You see, where there's a king, everybody stands, to attention. But when the queen comes in, the king himself receives the queen. The power of the queen on the chessboard is the power of a queen, a woman, in the political game, when she understands that this is serious. It's not about her being cute. It's not about her seducing, manipulating, or operating some system of political witchcraft. All she needs to do is to work her impact and understand her moves. Many times we as women don't understand political moves. We need to be educated. We need to understand what the math of political motion is. It's not emotion. It's an intelligence that is applied. And you know what? When we become masters of it, we become superior players and performers when it comes to politics. I believe you're very right. Because when you're in a room, you will find that our national women leaders, they have incredible influence.
Yeah.
Incredible influence. And while people would say unkind things concerning them, it's not true. They've just understood how to position themselves with the power itinerary that is on that chessboard. Prior to the advent of the kind of national women leaders we have now, before people didn't understand that they were still doing woman leader of the kitchen. No. Our present day women leaders don't do kitchen kitchen politics.
Yes.
They do kitchen cabinets.
Now, I attended...
They are part of that interior kitchen cabinet. They are not actually in the kitchen.
I attended one of the women wing conferences of one of the political parties. Amazing program. And a whole lot of women were there. It was filled up to the brim. And when one of the women said, "Women, we are our problem in politics," almost half of the hall shouted, "Yes." How are we our problem in politics?
Well, let me tell you, first and foremost, that is a very popular call and response thing. Women are their own worst enemies. We are our own problem. I'm in this studio today because a woman, thank you, they have brought me here.
And thank you for accepting to come.
Now, I can choose not to. I can choose to say,
absolutely.
A woman can throw attitude at another woman. I can choose not to embrace you. So I refuse to re-echo or validate that statement. Because in the environment I create, I eliminate what is toxic to another woman, even if the woman is toxic at me. Because I realize that what I represent, I'm a bridge. I'm way past being the younger generation, and I'm too young to be of the older generation, so I'm a bridge generation. And I'm very careful about how I manage the younger I'm bringing up and the older I hold respect to. I have a generation that want to disrespect the older because the older have not done anything to really
Deliver.
give them a hand to come up the ladder. And then I have an older that denigrate the younger because they don't have any respect. In our time, look, your time is fast. It's done, right? But we need to respect you because what you are is a repository. Like I said, we're talking about someone whose name we don't just want to mention. But I just sit with her. You know, how many times I sat with her twice during my whole push and campaign, even pre-campaign. The things she told me are the things that came to play out. Not because she was looking into any, what they call it, crystal ball, but just because she understands the processes. She understands the way in which the motions go. And she was able to give me counsel in that regard.
What would you see as a man? What would you see the Nigerian women do together that you would say, yes, they begin to get it right? Like you mentioned, the 11th Assembly. What do we need to start doing now that we've not done before, or we need to continue doing that will build a better women?
No, the thing is this: women not supporting women. For me, to a very large extent, I would say yes, because you see a lot of, like, any woman. I stand to be corrected anyway. Any woman that you see today that is progressive, has developed in all angles of life, if you check very well, is a man that elevated her, not her fellow woman. Though I
Okay.
said I stand to be corrected. But the fact is that women always have this issue that men doesn't. I can support my fellow man on 100 to achieve his aim. Even later on, if he refuse to, how will I put it, refuse to, probably reciprocate what we did. But the fact is that women always see this, they have this insecurity among them. If I want to bring a woman down, is to go through a woman. That's it.
So you have
You know,
I don't know if you were able to get
do
the
you, do
number
you
of women.
understand
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
When you want to bring a woman down,
yeah.
if you use a man, you will lose because
Use
the
women
man
is
will
easy.
go there to fail. But if you want to get her, you use another woman to get her. Do you understand?
It's a
And
very-
if a man, if you want to get a man, if you use a fellow man, you will not get him. You will use a
Use
woman.
another woman.
So you see,
Are we an agent?
Well, the truth of the matter, what it points to is the level of our influence.
Yes.
Women, when we want to do a thing thoroughly, we know how to do it. And like they say, hell hath no fury like
Fury.
a woman, spurned. At the same time, when a woman is in pain, she can become a very dangerous personality, or she can become an institution of incredible breakthrough.
yes,
Because where she should break down, she just becomes superwoman. And she turns the situation, the scenario around to something that's an incredible story and testament of great strength and triumph. So, yeah, as profound as it is, it's true. I look at my life and I'm like, oh, how I wish I could tell you it was not so. But he's so right.
I
My
was going to
greatest
ask you,
influence is my husband.
and I was going to ask
My
you,
husband is the one who has done the most incredible investment and things in
were
my
you able
life.
to get any figures concerning votes? How many women voted you and male voted you?
Well, they didn't allow the women into the room. If the women were in the room, I would have won that day. They kept the women out, which was against. That's why I said if I'd gone to court, definitely things would have
Changed, yeah.
But the reality is, yeah, they didn't allow the women. The few women in the room, a number of them were intimidated not to vote for me because they made it an open vote and under very threatening circumstances. The few did. I got the highest number of votes in the history of primaries for a woman in the APC, in the FCT, 28. It's never happened before. No woman has 2 votes to rub to the other.
And those were
But I
from
got
men.
that. Yes, it was. And well, that's the story for another day. It doesn't have to be, revamped here. But basically, the women were there immediately afterwards. Well, when I say immediately, it's a little season, they came. And that's how come today I have hope again for FCT women in politics. It's a whole movement. Just this morning, I had another group of women from the grassroots, women from very, very humble background, um, women of different faith, Muslims, I'm Christian, I'm a pastor, and all of that. If you were going to say, I mean, it was more like my own um, members of faith that were resentful against me because from their own projection, I had betrayed them. And that again is another conversation because you see, it's one thing if you don't have an understanding of a whole political um, matrix before you come to a place where, but then again, it's the nature of the politics, and you must allow people the right to vent what for them is their spleen,
That's right.
their political spleen, their choices, and all of that. But I had to know that I knew that I was positioned where I was called to be. My being an aspirant running to win a primary election and become the candidate predated anyone presenting himself as the presidential candidate. No one even expected His Excellency and now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to become president, to become candidate, not to talk of becoming the president. So already I was
Anyway,
operating in a very, very audacious place. Yes.
Whoever there is in the political space, knows that bat is a threat to everybody. They know it. They know because everybody's prayer was, God, don't allow us to go to primaries. Because if it gets to primaries, he will get this his way. And he did. So
Okay, so
everybody knows that.
now let's hear from you. What should we do as women? What should prepare the woman for not just the campaign women leader positions? What should prepare them to run for Senate like Adedayo seated here?
Well, they have been running. Some of them are winning. Some of them lost. And like I said, or no, let me borrow her word. Women need to start making impacts politically, not winning an election. And they should try as much as possible to start removing emotions. Just like she said, there was a time she was really angry with some set of people, and later they told her, no, you shouldn't. It's politics, and you let it go.
Honestly. And you find you live such a
because
healthy
it's
life.
only in politics that your blood brother will meet you and tell you, I'm not voting you. I will not work for you.
And it's nothing personal, it's politics.
It's
somebody that understands will say, no problem. If I don't win, at least you are there. That's the person that understands. People that use emotions will tell you that forever and ever our path will never cross again.
Politics is a lot of emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
it is. And when you lose an election, you're actually going to go through the 4 stages of grief.
Wow. Yeah,
it's true. You will grieve.
You will grieve, but the truth is, when you mention a true politician, whoever that tells you, since I start contesting, I have never lost an election, he's not a politician. A true test of a politician is who has lost. That's where you will know how it tastes like. That's why, let me borrow Denzel Washington word, that if you want to fail big.
Fail forward.
Because if you don't fail, you will not know the value of winning. So losing will equip you to move forward, to win.
I think this is a big word for a woman who's watching right now. Woman is watching.
I think that's what I will contribute. 2011 Senate.
Yes.
As if I'm seeing a face, I will know there. See the face.
I believe you will see the face. One thing is, you will definitely, I believe, see the face in the race.
Yes.
But then,
the thing is, like I said, is the political calculation. It's just keep your ambition focused, and that is it. Do you understand? In fact, in a 2023 election, before the primaries, nobody, just like she said, nobody was even looking at. They just felt they would do consensus and give it to somebody. That's over.
It didn't work.
Do you understand? But that is why you cannot even, predict a winner of an election until 12 a.m. of the election day, because in 1 hour everything
Things
can
can
change.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with you.
So that's
I
politics.
totally agree.
You know.
Looking at
So
you,
it's
yes.
possible
Yes.
at the time minute where probably they want to say she might not run or they should give the ticket to somebody, the person might say
can
he's not
change.
interested.
Yeah.
They will say what is happening. You say he's not just interested.
Yeah.
It happens. So politics, yours is just be ready. Be ready to pick it up. The issue with some people is that you are not ready, and when the opportunity comes, you can't fix yourself. So that is it. Whenever you are ready, when it's time, you pick it up.
You're in the very good position right now to talk to a woman out there who maybe has tried local government, for example, House of Assembly and all of that. What are you telling that woman?
Go for your dream. She who dares wins. You're a winner. You don't need to win the seat to become the expression of inspiration, winning inspiration for another woman or for your generation, for your city, for your community, or for your family, for your nation. Just go for it. She who dares wins.
Yeah.
And the audacity of running is the expression of winning.
I agree.
This is just what it is. If one advances confidently in the direction of her dreams, striving to live the life, attain the position she has imagined, she will meet with success unexpected in common hours. I'm quoting. It's a French philosopher, but it's true. So this is what I found.
Yeah.
So I encourage you.
Failing is more of an encouragement. So I just pray that some of the viewers will not misunderstand it and say, after all, I heard Prince said everybody should fail. I will continue to fail.
No.
That's not the
That's
idea.
a big disclaimer there.
Yes.
You've been watching the Patriot podcast with distinguished Adedayo Benjamins-Laniyi. She is the EMD Doxa Digital Nigeria and also a pastor, an amazing, amazing person doing a great job with young people and older people as well. We're glad to have you.
I'm so glad to
Thank
be
you.
here.
And of
Praise
course,
the
our in-house analyst, Uchenna Simon, and we call him Prince Yusingawa. Glad that you came today.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Let's keep making our impact out there until we come your way again with another edition of the program. My name is Dale, and you've been watching the Patriot Podcast.